All right, everybody, welcome to our weekly Outlook webinar. Thank you guys so much for being here. Today is Sunday, October 8th, 2017. Let's jump right into things. If you guys are brand new here, my name is David Schinkel. I'm the CEO and founder of Positive Traders. You guys can join me just about every single Sunday for one of these weekly outlooks where I'm going to give my outlook for free on the markets. My disclaimer I like to tell everybody is please understand that this is just my outlooks on the markets. You guys should be using my analysis combined with your analysis to be placing and taking your trades throughout the week. That goes for also any of the free trade ideas I give out in the Telegram to you guys. But also the analysis that we're going to be going over is a weekly analysis. So this is what my opinion is that I think is going to happen overall this week. It may not happen today or tomorrow. It might take until, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to happen. So keep that in mind. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And if this analysis helps you guys out, if you want to learn more about the other services we have, head over to our website, positivetraders.us. But let's jump right into the news for the week. I want to look at the economic calendar before we look at the analysis on the charts. It's a pretty light week, okay, guys? So tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is pretty light. There is some news, some high-impact news for the dollar on Thursday morning, and there's also some high-impact news for the dollar on Friday morning as well. But that's pretty much it for this week. It's a pretty easygoing beginning and start to the week with the economic calendar. So not a whole lot to worry about. The key risk events are going to come Thursday and Friday morning. So we'll be looking at that in the premium group a little bit further throughout the week, but beginning of the week, not too much to worry about. So let's look at the dollar index first. We can see Friday's candle. Let me go ahead and grab my pointer out for you guys. We can see Friday's candle closed as a pretty nice exhaustion candle at some pretty significant previous resistance right before we actually dropped below this multi-year support right around the 93.2 level that you guys can see here on the weekly. This was our previous level of support before it dropped below this area. So we can see this previous consolidation level. We saw a drop outside of this weekly, multi-year support, and now we see price back up in this level. Right now, looks like the dollar on Friday, it did find a little bit of weakness after a pretty significant rally throughout last week. We may see a little bit more weakness in the dollar, but what I'm looking at right now is this trend line on the 4-hour. If price can stay above this level on the 4-hour, I think we'll stay bullish on the dollar. But if we can get past this level right here, if we can break the support of this 4-hour trend line, but then also come down and break below this multi-year support again, maybe get like a bearish flag or some sort of bearish continuation pattern in this area, I think we could see more downside on the dollar. But if price remains above this trend line, I think we're going to stay bullish on the dollar throughout this week, especially if we break last week's highs. If we break price above somewhere around this area, then we may be expecting a bullish dollar for the week. So let's go ahead and look at gold. Right now, gold does look like it's finding a little bit of strength, which may signify that the dollar could get a little bit weaker. If we do see that trend line on the 4-hour on the dollar index break, we could see stronger gold. You guys know that a weaker dollar means stronger gold. They have a negative correlation to each other. And we also see that the daily candle on Friday for gold created a pretty nice technical pattern, a bullish engulfing candle on the daily on some pretty significant support. So shows definitely some strength in gold. I wouldn't be interested in buying gold until we broke above the 1280 level and maybe like a bull flag or some sort of bullish confirmation, bullish continuation pattern to the upside. We might see 1300 again. We may see 1300 reached again if we see the dollar continue to weaken. Now, looking at Euro USD, doing obviously definitely the opposite of the dollar index right now, more along the lines of following what gold is doing. We are finding some support. On Friday, we do see an exhaustion candle on the bottom, just like it looks like the opposite of the dollar index. And so if we do see some weakening of the dollar throughout this week, if we do see that trend line on the dollar index broken, then we may see some more upside on euro dollar. But on the flip side, if we do see last week's lows broken, if we do see euro dollars start to break last week's lows, then we're probably going to see a bearish week for euro USD. So let's So right now we're on the sidelines, guys. We're waiting to see what this daily candle does. You guys that have been following me for some time know that I don't like doing a whole lot of trading on Sunday. I like to get a feel for the markets of what they're doing on Sunday, but I like to see ideally where the Sunday daily candle closes at to kind of give me an idea of where and how I want to place trades for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are my favorite days to trade. Not a big fan of trading on Sundays or Fridays. USD Swiss franc, just like the inverse of Euro USD, we see a big exhaustion candle on the top of price. We also see it at some pretty significant technical level of resistance. This resistance goes back pretty far, and it also happens to be the 38.2% retracement level of the previous downtrend, the major downtrend that we were in on USD Swiss franc. So if we see, I would say something along the lines of if we see Friday's lows broken, so Friday's lows are right around this area, we can actually pinpoint that area exactly. That's about 97.70, right around the 97.70 area. If we see Friday's lows broken, we may see a bearish start to the week on USD Swiss franc. But inversely, if we start to see this resistance broken going into the week, going into Monday and Tuesday, we could see a higher exchange rate on this pair before the end of the week. So right now, all of these pairs that are giving us exhaustion candles are at pretty significant levels. We're looking to see if these levels get broken or if we get a bounce at these significant levels. Pound dollar, we're just going to skip right over, just like we did last week. Not interested in trading the pound right now. At least pound dollar. Pound yen hasn't been too bad for trading, but pound dollar in particular, we did see a very, very significant sell-off on the pound dollar last week. Exchange rate lowered quite a bit, and we do see it back below some technical support. So we could see more downside on pound dollar, but I'm not interested in trading this pair right now. Pound yen doesn't look too bad. There is a little bit of a bear flag forming on the lower time frames, and it's also breaking some pretty significant support right now. We can see this bear flag just right before the markets closed last week. This bear flag that was actually broken. I think that if we see more upside in gold, keep in mind that pound, yen, and gold have a negative correlation to each other. So if we do see gold move up based on a weaker dollar, then we may see some more downside on pound yen as well. On the lower time frames, like the 1 hour, we're seeing a little bit of a bear flag forming, kind of like we saw this really big bear flag up here, and then it broke. We're seeing a small bear flag forming here. So don't be surprised if we see this this range broken and then we see some more downside. I think possibly like 146, the mid 146s could be in target for this week. So keep in mind for pound yen. Dollar yen is actually another trade that I'm interested in, or another pair that I'm interested in this week. We talked about this range for quite some time a couple of weeks ago before we broke out of this area. We broke out of it to the downside, and then we ended up getting back inside this range. Right now, last week, we see a lot of hesitation after this big rally on dollar yen from the middle of September, and it rallied all the way up to the middle of October. We're finding could be what we would see as a top in this area. If we see price break below the support of this previous wedge that we were in right here, where this red trend line is at, if we see price break below this area, then we could be seeing more downside on this pair, especially if we see weakness on the dollar. We see the dollar index break that trend line that we talked about earlier. We may see a lot more downside on dollar yen as well. And that would follow our analysis with pound yen going down as well. If we see pound yen and dollar yen both moving down, that's strengthening in the yen, which is usually what we see when we see strengthening in gold as well. UJ looks really good. Yeah, Manny, I definitely agree too. UJ looks really great for the downside. We have a pretty solid level right around here. We can actually extend this just a little bit and mark off here. Let me delete a couple levels that aren't as significant anymore. Something like that, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. We can see that this level, kind of where price is sitting at right now, this is a pretty significant level right here. And then it also so happens to be that right below this level, we have this trend line from the wedge that we were in, that big daily wedge. So if we break below this area, I would love to see, like, if we see some sort of bear flag, definitely planning on trading that bear flag to the downside, some sort of bearish continuation pattern. Maybe instead of a bear flag, we might see price break this and then maybe come up and retest this trend line and get a rejection off that area in see more downside, all based on a weaker dollar, ideally, and strengthening of gold, which happens when the dollar weakens. So it's kind of like they go hand in hand. But yeah, look for downside on USD Japanese. That's a very big pair of interest this week. Okay, downside on dollar yen. AUD USD and NZD USD, I'm not super interested in trading right now. We saw AUD USD actually break this support level last week. We talked about this I think we talked about this on the weekly outlook last week. If we didn't, I know we talked about it on the premium group then. We were at the 38.2% retracement level. We were expecting a little bit more upside than this. We didn't get that upside. Actually ended up breaking this support in this area, and so we're seeing some more downside. On a weaker dollar, we should see this pair move up. We usually see a positive correlation to AUD USD and NZD USD and gold for the most part, based on a weaker dollar. So if we see a weaker dollar, we might see this pair go up. But as long as we're below the 78.20 level, this previous level of support that we already broke, where we were expecting for price to stay above this level right here, this middle green zone right here. If we stay below this area, not interested in buying AUD USD. If we see price break above this area, maybe get like a bull flag or some sort of bullish continuation pattern, then yes, we'll look to trade this to the upside. But as of right now, on the sidelines with AUD USD. New Zealand dollar, US dollar, same thing on the sidelines. Not interested in buying or selling this pair right now. There's a pretty major sell-off on this pair last week. There's actually some high impact news that came out for the Australian dollar last week, which caused a pretty big sell-off on both the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar, since they both have a very similar exchange rate, and they do New Zealand's economy is heavily based on Australia's economy as well. So you tend to see a pretty positive correlation, even if you look at their exchange rates, 0.77 and 0.70 versus the dollar, not a huge difference in their exchange rate. So economies are pretty similar. That being said, we saw downside on AUD USD last week based on that news, and we saw downside on New Zealand dollar US dollar also based on that news. And New Zealand dollar US dollar is below a pretty significant trend line right now. So again, as long as we stay below this trend line, kind of like how it looks very similar to Australian dollar US dollar, I'm not interested in selling this pair. But if we do see price break above this trend line, maybe get some sort of bull flag or maybe a retest of this trend line back to the upside, then I'll be interested in buying this pair. But as of right now, like I said, let's focus on like pound yen looks really nice, dollar yen looks really nice. Euro USD could give us some nice opportunities. Gold could give us some nice opportunities, but really, I think my eyes are really on USD Japanese right now, and also looking at what the dollar index is doing, if the dollar index decides to break this trend line or not. But both Australian dollar, US dollar, New Zealand dollar, US dollar on the sidelines with. And USD CAD, finally, we have another trend line on USD CAD we will look at. Let's see. Sheldon, you said not looking at Australian dollar either this week because of price action. Awesome. Looking at NZD USD, can one qualify that as a head and shoulder patterns? Hold on, guys. Just a second. Just trying to connect. Okay, there we go. USD CAD has a pretty significant trend line. I'll go to, hold on. Let me answer your question with New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Let's see. Head and shoulders. Kind of. I mean, if you're talking about this on the daily, this could potentially be a head and shoulders, maybe. This could be a head and shoulders pattern broken. We'll see what happens if we do get a retest and then maybe some more downside on this pair. That is possible. That's something to look at. I can see where you're coming at with a descending head and shoulders. Definitely that's valid. So that would probably be another reason why I'm not interested in looking at the New Zealand dollar, US dollars, because if we're looking at some potential dollar weakness, then usually that would mean upside. But if we're seeing this pattern completed based on the break of the neckline, we could see more downside on this pair. So sidelines with AUD USD and NZD USD, definitely. USD CAD has been really playing with this trend line pretty nicely. We've seen it bounce off this trend line pretty quite a few times, right? It's been a pretty nice trend line. And so my analysis is pretty simple with USD CAD, guys. If as long as price can stay above this trend line, even if we get down to it, if we bounce off of it, I think we'll see more upside on this pair. But If we do see this trend line broken, maybe some sort of bear flag or maybe some sort of break and retest, just giving us some signal to the downside, then I'll be interested in taking my shorts on USD CAD. For those of you guys that have been following me for a while, you guys know that I have been bearish on long term. I've had a long-term bearish outlook on USD CAD. We talked about this big drop earlier in 2016, and then going into the end of 2016 or middle of 2017, we saw a lot of consolidation with USD CAD, and then finally this range broke to the downside. This drop right here is 2,000 pips, and we have not dropped even close to 2,000 pips yet. So I think there's some still more long-term downside on USD CAD. We've been pretty much had a negative outlook long-term on USD CAD ever since we saw this bearish engulfing candle. But yeah, so we'll be looking to see if and when that trend line breaks. As of right now, we're still seeing a rally intact for USD CAD as long as it stays above this trend line. So we'll see what happens when it drops a little bit further. But other than that, guys, does anybody have any questions or anything like that? Just, again, if you guys are coming in towards the end of the session, be careful on Thursday morning and Friday morning. There's some high impact news at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, 5:30 a.m. Pacific time, both on Thursday and Friday for the dollar. It looks like we've got some PPI and also President Mario Draghi, the head of the European Central Bank, will be speaking, and then crude oil inventories a couple hours after that on Thursday, and then Friday there is some core CPI and retail sales. So a lot of high impact news for the dollar towards the end of the week. CW says, do you like to trade off divergences? I don't use divergences as much. I'm not a big indicator trader. I like using supply and demand levels and basing my analysis just off of price action on higher time frames. I tend to find divergences have usually like a 50-50 win rate. All right, guys, but I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here. It doesn't look like there's any other questions. If you guys do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Telegram, Slack, Facebook, wherever you can get a hold of me. Instagram, it doesn't really matter. But I'll go ahead and upload this to YouTube for you guys. If you're watching the recording, like, comment, and subscribe so you can see every single Sunday webinar that I do for you guys. But other than that, have a good week, guys, and all of the premium members. I'll see you guys in about 24 hours for tomorrow's premium webinar. Other than that, have a great weekend, guys. Have a great week, guys.